A lot of my work can be summarized up as an obsession with memories. I'm really interested in how we as individuals record and keep our own history versus how our collective memory is kind of formulated and shaped through education, archives, and propaganda, and are just kind of surrounding. I'm kind of honing in on two specific rituals, which are weddings and funerals. And so growing up, I grew up in a very Catholic environment, a little Catholic town in Vietnam, and I lived there for about 7 years. And so growing up, I thought every Vietnamese was Catholic, but it wasn't until I left that I was like, oh, a very small population of the Vietnamese population is actually Catholic. But the use of veil was something that I saw very often in those ceremonies and kind of rituals. And so in many ways, I started to kind of think about veils and covering up as a form of kind of protection in many ways. For the exhibition, I am creating 5 new pieces of work, 4 of which are textile-based. The majority of them will be using indigo in various kind of format. I think there's something about the color blue that reminds me of water a lot. And I think about how the only thing separating me from kind of Vietnam and America is this giant body of water. And so there's this kind of melancholy that kind of comes with it. And it's such a kind of calming kind of quality, but there's also a lot of turbulence within the color. So as soon as I started to work with indigo, there was something that just clicked in my brain. And I felt like for me, indigo is the closest thing I can get to magic. And I was really inspired by that during my Wingate Lamar Fellowship in 2023 when I went back to Vietnam and do a lot of research. And so part of the fellowship was actually taking a workshop in Northern Cao Bang with the ethnic women of Nong An. And there they showed me how they do indigo. And it was such a different method than I had learned in school that it started to really resonate with me. And I think this goes back to rituals. So much of the process of indigo dyeing felt like a ritual to me. And when I was in Vietnam, I felt such a disconnect because I had put so much emphasis on Vietnam as this place where everything's going to get fixed if I go back. And when I went back, everything had changed so much that I felt like a foreigner once again. And so I really wanted to share that kind of aspect, but I didn't want to just reveal all of it, because it was really, really personal in many capacity. I was really interested in deconstructing the visuals of Vietnamese and English within the language and kind of making them into patterns and motifs. And so then I started to kind of make it into this coded language that I kind of made it more comfortable for me to want to share the work. One of the things that I'm challenging myself to do within this exhibition is make it as confusing as possible to kind of ask the audience to kind of spend more time with it. And so as that kind of capacity, I started to really start to think about my work and how I'm kind of presenting my loved one and my family members in these kind of ornate kind of patterns. And so thinking about them and putting them on pedestals physically and kind of showing their identity, I started to step back a little bit, thinking about the commodifications of bodies of colors within the art world. It felt so much like tokenism in a weird sense. And so as a result, I started to kind of use these really condensed patterns that I'm pulling and inspired from Vietnamese brown ceramics ware to kind of obscure the images and kind of hide their identity, where you can't just see the entire thing or understand the entire thing within a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes of viewing it. I think the work reveals itself more the more intimately you look at it. So all the work in the exhibition are kind of surrounding these themes of kind of push and pull on how much information that I'm revealing, and kind of asking the audience to kind of sit with the work a little bit more instead of consuming it in such a short amount of time.